be the next bag holder.
I think it's very difficult because I think the number of qualified investors have gone way down as the surface area of investing has gone way up. So again, just going back to this conversation, this woman is staffing most of these venture firms with their junior and mid-level partners. And again, the qualification to become a venture capitalist at this point is not that you have an ability to pick or, in David's case, have operated and actually run a business and then actually have developed a methodical framework, or Brad's business, which is Brad had to start from literally zero in the public markets and work his way backwards to end up with 15 or 20 billion of assets. It's none of that. It's, are you a VP at an XYZ unicorn that may also be poorly run? And all of a sudden that, gives you the qualification to go into a job where, and it's not their fault, where what they are told is what you want is what we're going to give you, which is the ability to write, X number of checks per year. That is insanity. That's not what makes a good investor. And then your ability to then give advice, I don't know, it's probably zero or less than zero.
Your ability to give advice is, I think we have to qualify, bad advice is being given. So the ability to give quality advice is what's missing in this formula.
I just think these people are really naive, it's not their fault, but they're given way too much rope to hang themselves with, and the unfortunate byproduct is going to be the companies who gets bad advice or the bad businesses that get funded. And that's not what, an efficient capital market should do.
So one of the things I'm seeing our portfolio companies do is use burn multiple as a governor for how fast they're going to grow. So for example, they will say that the burn multiple should not exceed 2 in the next quarter. So, we want to, so the old way of doing it would be that the company would just have a forecast and say, we're going to grow 3x this year. We're going to grow ARR from 10 million to 30 million. And whatever that costs, it costs, right? That was basically how companies did it. Now, what I'm seeing from some of our portfolio companies is they are saying, yeah, our goal is to grow from 10 to 30, but we will not spend so much money that our burn multiple exceeds 2. So, if it turns out that there's a trade-off here between growth and burn is going to win. We're not going to exceed that level of that ratio of spending. And that's actually I've seen a few companies implement that already, and it's probably something they should all be doing.
I mean, if these are pilots, they basically created a rule to not stall the plane, right? You got to keep a certain altitude, a certain speed. So what is the opportunity here then? If we're going to have too many companies, too high valuations, if we're going to hang around the rim and try to get some rebounds here and try to find opportunities, what are the opportunities? What are the layups here for capital allocators and for founders? If we have great layups. Advice for them, there's nothing.
There've never been layups. And the problem is, in up markets, whenever we think that there are, it ends up being what causes our downfall later because we just take the wrong signal away. I don't think that there are. I don't want to be investing incremental capital into a late stage startup that's poorly run, that doesn't have their margins in line, and then having to work it out. Why do that? Again, I can just go in the S&P 500 and get 8%. And yeah, it's not 30%, but it's 8%. And I don't have to deal with all this nonsense. A bunch of people that
because you're a crossover investor, right? I mean, you have the ability to choose between public, privates, or wherever you want to play.
I actually think what I am is an investor.
Right.
But you don't have LPs for a VC fund like Sachs and I do.
But this is my point. I think investing, irrespective of whatever stage you do it, still fundamentally comes down to the following, which is, do you have the judgment to understand whether these decisions are marginally good, marginally average, or marginally destructive for the short, medium, and long term of a business? And I just don't think that enough people steep themselves in the practice that it takes to get good at that kind of a game. And I think what these moments expose is that the status games that come around investing, because it just seems like it's easy, it just seems like you don't do much work, that's what ruins these periods. And the implications, I think, as Brad said, is really right. It affects the employees, it affects the entrepreneurs, it affects the startup culture, it affects the incremental desire for people to take a shot at things. You can overcome all of it. We have, and we will again. But I really think, to the entrepreneur, the message is, if you're, taking a term sheet, I think you have to have better judgment to really look at that investor and say, is this person really qualified to help me? Because in these moments, in the absence of help, you're probably going to basically have a valuation reset at the minimum case and the worst case is you go out of business.